Hello and welcome once again to the So Weird podcast. I'm Jimmy,
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Melissa.
and we are back with an awesome treat for you guys. Please join us in welcoming a very special guest, Annmarie Cullen. She is a singer, a songwriter, and a musician, and we know her best as writing most of the melodies for Molly Phillips songs in Disney Channel's So Weird. Annmarie, thank you so much for being with us. How are you today?
I'm great. It's so good to be here, guys. And you probably know me. Actually, my stage name was Annmarie Montade. So that is what, yeah, when I was like young, I thought that Cullen wasn't snappy enough for show business, much to the chagrin of my parents. So when I went out to LA and then I started to write for So Weird, I was still under my Annmarie Montade moniker, but so that's how you know me. I'm very fond of that whole era, but now I go by Annmarie Cullen, which is my given name.
Cool. How did you come up with Montade?
You know, when I was 15 years old, I was in my first all-girl band with two of my friends from school, and we were in English class once, and we saw this reference of rodomontade, which is an old English word for verbal arrogance and bragging, and we thought that was cool. And when we split up after about a year of that band, but when I was looking to have a snappier name than Cullen, I thought, oh, I'll shorten rodomontade to Montade, and I like the ring of that. But people started thinking I was French. They thought it was a French name. And I'm like, nope.
So, wow.
Yeah. Getting all the backstory here, guys.
I did a little bit of research here and I found out a little bit. I was surprised to find out that you were, as a young person, Annmarie could be described as a born musician with innate talent comparable to a child prodigy. And at the tender age of 8 years old, you were already writing catchy songs on your piano with verses and chorus and a bridge. And by the time you were 12, you had already been recording your first couple songs in a professional studio. And you actually taught yourself to play guitar and drums, which is amazing. And you formed that band when you were 15, like you were telling us. And you studied performance and music at the Rock School in Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, well, whoever wrote that was very kind. I would certainly not describe myself as a child prodigy, but it's true that I did start writing songs when I was 8 years old. And I did record my first song when I was 12. I had a few guitar lessons and then kind of taught myself, but I didn't teach myself from scratch. And yep, I didn't have a drum lesson, but I love me some drums, man. Just, yeah, I'm not very good, but yeah, music was definitely from the tender age of 8. I was, my first song that I wrote was about my dog that went missing.
Aww.
Yeah. So I won't sing you a few bars, but yeah, it was called Chips.
I'd love to hear like some of those old studio recordings from when you were like 12 or 13. That would be so awesome.
Oof. I don't even know if even you, Jim, my friend, if I would share those, but you never know. Maybe I'll share some of the recordings from my girl band when we were 15.
Ooh,
we were actually kept it a secret, though. We thought that everyone would make fun of us if they found out we had started a band, that we thought we were cool enough. But so we kept it a secret and practiced in secret in the piano room in our school. But then people found out, and they actually were very nice about it. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start off with the questions. The first question being, how did you get started working on So Weird?
Ooh, that's actually a pretty good story, I have to say. So I moved from Dublin after college to Los Angeles to pursue my own music career. And like many people did, I started waiting on tables in Santa Monica. And I struck up a friendship with one of the regulars, a guy called Lee Gaither, who actually was an executive producer on or a producer on the show. And he was, would come in, and around that time I had a song in a movie called Just Right, just this kind of low budget movie, but that did quite well. But I remember giving him a postcard, and I was like, oh, I've got this, there's a screening of this movie and I have a song in it. And he was like, oh, I didn't know you were a musician. He was like, can you write music to lyrics? And I was like, yeah, I do it all the time. And he was like, oh, because we're shooting this show and we're having a little trouble finding, the perfect fit. I went on break, and I lived 2 blocks away, and I ran down, and I think I got my CD and gave it to him. But I think he sent me the lyrics for actually In the Darkness Is the Night. And within, I think, 3 days, I had written and recorded it and just submitted it to him with my fingers crossed. And they ended up liking it enough that they actually used it as the theme song, which was amazing. And then from that, I wrote, I think, for the first 2 seasons, most of the songs, not all of them. And it was actually kind of funny as well, though, because when the show premiered, I was actually still at work as a waitress, and I was watching it on my break in the guest TV room. But shortly thereafter, I was lucky enough to quit my day job and work on So Weird full time, which was great.
That is so cool. That's one of those stories, like, people say there's Hollywood stories where they're waitressing and then they like strike up a conversation.
No, it's such a cliche, really, but it really did. Yeah, Lee would always just come into, it was a place called Toppers. It's under a different name now, but it was on top of this beautiful hotel and overlooking the ocean, and he would come in all the time, and he was just a regular. And yeah, it was great. It was great. It was a good story.
Yeah. Very cool.
So that's how I got involved in So Weird.
This one is a question from Kat, who is another podcaster who can't be with us today. She says there are a few So Weird music videos set to your music on YouTube. Some examples are Wasted, which is a Molly video, Headroom, a Funny Cast video, Refuge, an Annie video, Smart Girls. Have you ever watched them, and how do you feel about people using your music for bidding?
I think I fell upon those in a search, in a weird search, and I was surprised. But yeah, I have no problem with it at all. I mean, those are way old songs of mine. Yesteryear, when I was still under Annmarie Montade. No, but hey, if I'm honored if anyone wants to make a video to my music and spend their time and creativity doing that. Yeah, as long as it's okay with Disney using the footage, which I don't know if it's completely allowed, but fine by me. You can use my music from my project. Yeah. So no, I'm
cool.
I'm fine with that. Thank you for whoever did it. Thank you for doing it. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I have seen it. It was cool. I was like, oh
yeah.
my God. I can't believe somebody did that to my music. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very, very, very honored. Very, very honored.
Yeah. Very cool.
So that's one thing that I think a lot of fans are able to identify with, is that your music, and probably with your Irish roots as well, because the character in the show So Weird, she as well was Irish American. So I think that's why people are able to identify so much with your music and the character Molly Phillips' music, because they're so similar and enmeshed, of how similar the sound is. But it's interesting that you've had many of your songs and your songwriting featured in tons of notable TV shows, films, as well as commercials. And your discography has seen the release of upwards of about 10 records as a solo artist, as well as in your band Saucy Monkey. I had a question about Saucy Monkey. I know that you've been in the band for years, and you guys have released some outstanding records. But where did you meet your bandmate Cynthia Catania, and how did you guys come up with the idea to form the band Saucy Monkey that has seen, some fame in its own right?
That's a great question. And so what happened was when I started working for Disney, I was and writing for the show, which I love doing. Shortly thereafter, I got an opportunity to write, to be signed as a songwriter for Warner Chappell, which is this company in America. And I was pursuing a record deal for myself. The Warner Chappell was kind of like a deal for songwriters, but I also wanted a deal for, to release my own music. And I got very, very close, and I had a good, regular show in LA that was, very well attended every week. I had a residency, and it was kind of like the girl who almost did it. I had record labels, but ultimately it didn't. I didn't seal the, the deal wasn't sealed. It was a time of a lot of flux in the industry at that time. A lot of little labels started to merge together. So like Time Warner and AOL, I think, merged. It was kind of a crazy time to be a musician. So I got a little disillusioned with that, and I kind of wanted to do music for fun again, because I think I'd lost a little bit of that. I was trying to make it as a career, and yeah, I'd kind of lost a little bit of the fun element. So meanwhile, I knew Cynthia from the LA scene, and she would come to some of my shows, and I really liked her music, and I was like, I want to do a night in Santa Monica and invite musicians to come and just jam. But Cynthia knew a lot more musicians than I did, so I was like, do you want to do it with me? And maybe we can sing a few songs each, and I can, sing on your songs, you can sing on mine. So that was kind of essentially what we did. We invited our friends, and it turned into such a fun night with all of our songwriter friends coming down and singing a song, and we take it in turns. And myself and then Cynthia then started to write together, and our friend Adam, who came down, he was our drummer, and our friend Carson, who's a bass player, they would just come down and sit in, and then we ultimately formed a band, though, because it was so much fun. And yeah, so and also my friend Danny played drums a little bit with Saucy for the first Saucy Monkey album. So it was just basically, we wanted to have fun, and I think when you listen to especially the first album, there is kind of this energy in a release, our album Celebrity Trash, that was just like a bunch of friends getting together, having fun, and playing music. And so that's how I met Cynthia. That was very long.
Wow.
Sorry, you might need to do some chopping with that.
No, I am a huge fan of Saucy Monkey. I think your voice and Cynthia's voice and your guys' songwriting talent, it's out of this world. And I definitely recommend fans go check out Saucy Monkey's records. Their first record, Celebrity Trash, is amazing. Turbulence?
My favorite is Turbulence. So if anyone is listening that doesn't know much about Saucy Monkey, check out Turbulence. Even though Celebrity Trash was all of them I love, but I think I have a special place in my heart for Turbulence.
I love that band. I've been a huge fan of yours for years, of course, so I love Saucy Monkey, but I do want to give you a shout out because Anne-Marie's latest record is called Never Be Mine, and you could buy it anywhere right now. So go check out her latest record, Never Be Mine, and also check out the new lyric video on YouTube for the song Never Be Mine. Beautiful, beautiful record, Annmarie.
Thank you very much, Jeannie.
Yeah, this next question is from Emily, who is also another co-host from the podcast. Her question is a fun question we like to ask our special guests. It's, have you ever experienced anything supernatural? And if not, what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you?
Ooh, Emily knows how to throw me.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a little dark, but I think so weird you folks are okay with a little bit of the darkness. So when my mom has been dead 14 years, and obviously it was a very traumatic time in my life, and I was home in Ireland. Luckily, she died around Christmas time because I was home on a holiday. So she died on New Year's Eve, and it was very, very awful, as you can imagine. And and 2 weeks later, I had like just a general physical checkup, an annual, and I went along, and that was that. Got it checked out, and a few days later, I had a dream, a very vivid dream, where my mom said, came to me, and she was just like, "Annmarie, are you taking care of yourself?" And I was like, "Yes, Mom, of course I am." And of course I wasn't at the time. I wasn't sleeping. I was a mess. And she was like, "Do you need to go on an antibiotic?" I was like, what a random question. And I was like, "No." And so that was that. And I called my sister in the morning to tell her about it. I was like, "So weird. I had this vivid dream about Mom." And my sister actually worked at the hospital where I got my physical. And she was like, "Annmarie, I just got your results, and you do have a little infection, and you do need to go on an antibiotic." And I've just said, so it was just really, really kind of like creepy and weird that it was like prophetic. Yeah. So that was the only supernatural. There was another time that I felt my mom hugging me, and it was another time where I was kind of coming to terms with her death, and it woke me up, and I really feel that she was there giving me a hug. But apart from that, not really. At least I don't think so. But supernatural.
Those are sweet. Yeah, those are sweet though. I find like they're comforting and not necessarily like scary.
No, they're definitely. I mean, they're definitely. I have no doubt in my mind that my mom was sending me a message, and I have no doubt in my mind that she was giving me a hug at that time. So yes, be it supernatural visit from the other world, yeah, it just happened to me. Thankfully, it's somebody I knew, because I think if it was somebody I didn't know, I'd freak out.
Yeah.
I'm not down with ghosts or stuff.
Okay. All right. I have 2 questions. Did you ever meet any of the cast from So Weird? And what instruments do you know how to play?
I did meet. I met Mackenzie Phillips, Molly, several times, and I feel that I met all of the cast. Yeah, at the we had a premiere in Hollywood of the first of the night when it was broadcast for the first time. And so yeah, I met everyone there, including Henry Winkler, which I think you guys are too young to know who he is, but he was the Fonz, and he was like a he was on the show called Happy Days, and he was there, and he was just like, "You write the music?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You did a good job." And I was just like, moon, But Mackenzie, how actually, before I even met Mackenzie, how we would communicate the music of So Weird was Jon Cooksey would write the lyrics, and then I would write the melodies. But this was in the late 90s, and it wasn't really easy to just record on your phone like it is now. So what I would do is I would record my ideas, my songs basically, on a video cassette, and send it to Canada where they were filming, and they would pop it into their VCR and look at me. I mean, that's how I did, like Rebecca and In the Darkness. It would just be like, here's how I think you, here's how I sing it, you do your thing. So, so that's how she learned the songs. So we had kind of a relationship in this via VCR before we met in person. But she couldn't have been nicer. She was very, very supportive. Yeah. Cool. But she probably, but the rest of the cast I totally met, but I didn't have I think I just met them once at that premiere, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, Mackenzie seems really nice.
Yeah, she was super cool. And, vocally our styles are quite similar as well. So it kind of was a really good fit. And, it was just, I think it was just a bizarre time in both of our lives, that she was kind of coming back into acting, and I was, just got discovered in waitressing, so we're kind of going through a kind of a weird time, but a weird but wonderful time. So yeah, I'm gonna put my guitar down there. So yeah,
Thank you.
So this one comes from Kat again. She asked, what was it like for you to transition from being a regular musician to working on composing for a television show? And what are the unique challenges of composing for a show?
I think the main difference is that when I write music for myself, I write music for myself, and I'm the only person I really have to please, or obviously if you're in your band, you have to please yourself. So there's kind of no, it's less pressure really, because you only have to honor yourself. So the main difference writing for a show is that, and thankfully this didn't happen very often, because I think myself and Jon had a really, really good, we were just in sync. But sometimes you think you've come up with gold and they don't like it, or they like most of it but they want it changed, and that is a bit that is a challenge, because sometimes if you think something is done and finished and people want changes, it's hard to it's hard to redo something that you think is great. But thankfully, actually, we didn't have to do that many changes. The only song that comes to mind, I was Origami. I didn't write actually the version from that was on the show, but I did write a version of Origami that didn't quite make it, and I think I just misread it. I came from a upbeat but kind of moody standpoint. And after seeing the show, I realized that I kind of missed the mark. Hands up, and I think they wanted something that was a little bit more joyful. So yeah. But other than that, I don't think I had to make any changes. I think we just kind of I sent it and they liked it. Thankfully, I think myself and Jon had a really, really good chemistry with writing, but that would be certainly the challenges, and it happened with Origami. We didn't like it. I loved it, but they didn't like it.
That's really cool.
I would love to hear.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I might have it. If I do have it, I'll send it to you. I'm gonna look.
I would love to hear any of your demos from that So Weird era when you were corresponding with Jon Cooksey.
Right.
I would love to hear any of.
I would love to hear it too, but I think what happened was I recorded it on that VHS cassette and sent it to Canada, and I don't think I had made a copy, or at that time.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like the DVD, or dual VHS burners. But of course, if I ever stumble upon it, I promise you guys, you'll be close.
Cool.
If you'd like to play In the Darkness Now, we would love to hear it.
All right. It's only a verse and a chorus. And Kathy, if this sucks, you edit it out. Keep it for your private collection.
Yeah.
Demons come from every side. In the darkness is the light. Throwing me on a downward slide. In the darkness is the light. Getting hot the deeper I go. In the darkness is the light. Into the darkness down below. In the darkness is the light. Live my life in one straight line. Future ahead and the past behind. Don't wanna go back to yesterday, but I don't know how long I can live this way.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
That was awesome.
Thank you. So basically, that's kind of how I would do it, with the except record it and send it on a VCR.
Very cool.
Amazing. How did it feel? Um, were you aware of who, I'm sure you were, of who Mackenzie Phillips was before you started working with her? And how did it feel to have such an iconic singer and actress covering music that you were composing? How did that feel to you at that time?
Dude, I mean, yeah, I was aware of who she was, but we didn't have her show in Ireland. So
One day at a time?
yeah, one day at a time. We didn't have that, but I still was aware of who she was and her amazing musical family background. So I felt I was living in the Twilight Zone. Like, I mean, one minute I was, serving tacos, and then I'm, writing songs for Mackenzie Phillips, and she's recording my songs. It was just like, yeah, it was really wild. It was a really special time. It was a beautiful time. Yeah, I worked very hard. I kept, I really went for it when I went to LA. I mean, I left Dublin to go to LA, and it was just such an amazing experience, an amazing reward to get to work with somebody like Mackenzie as my first professional songwriting job. So yeah, it was bonkers. Yeah. And people, especially my American friends, when I told them, they were like, "What?" So yeah, I was like, "Yeah." So anyway, yeah.
All right. I think those are all the questions that we had. So now we'll go into questions we got from like social media. So the first one is from Lauren on Twitter. She asks, "Who are your music inspirations and influences?"
Ooh, good. Good question. I think when I was growing up, it was Prince, very, very much, and Bruce Springsteen. I just thought they were very, very authentic. And I love their songs. And now in my later, now I kind of, I love Amy Mann, who's a great singer-songwriter. I also really like from the Billie Eilish and what somebody so young, and I love that. I kind of can relate to, because 16-year-old me was making music with my friends. She makes music with her brothers, with her brother, but I mean, she is head and shoulders above what I was doing at that time. But I think I can feel that raw energy and raw ambition, so, but in terms of influences, if you don't know who Amy Mann is, look her up. It's Aimee Mann. I love her music. Yeah, so she's on repeat. And I have to say, from not that she influences me, but I really, because I think we're very different styles, but I really admire what Sarah Bareilles has done. From, because she had a record deal, but now she writes for Waitress. She wrote the music for Waitress the musical, and I think I'm drawn to people who are very authentic in their craft, and I really do admire her.
We have a couple questions here from Princess Fernandez on Twitter. First one is, how was it collaborating and developing the iconic sound of the show with Jon Cooksey? And second, any memorable moments you can remember?
Oh, Jon, and it was so great working with Jon. I think we had a really, really good chemistry. And but we kind of gave each other a hard time as well, in terms of, I was, a fan of the 3-minute pop song, and for the show, a lot of the songs were quite long because they were telling the story, and I was just like, can we shorten this verse here? Can we go right into, the bridge is a little long. Do you mind if we kind of shorten it? And he was like, no, it tells a story. We need to keep it this long. And he was 100% correct and right. And I listen back now to the songs, and I'm like, thank God I didn't talk him into shortening anything, So, so it was, yeah, it was really, really great working with Jon. But we had a healthy dialogue, where we weren't scared to really lay that all out. And the second question was, I've forgotten.
It was, are there any memorable moments that you can remember?
Ooh, I think, I mean, so many. I mean, I think just seeing it actually on TV live for the first time, like, you know, because I obviously saw the pilot, you know, before I wrote music for the show, just to kind of get a sense of what it was all about. So I'd seen the versions of I'd seen the episodes, but to actually have it played on the television, and as I mentioned earlier, my first, because I was still waiting on tables, I wasn't sure if the show was going to take off, but I was watching it from like the break room in my waitressing at the hearing, you know, the In the Darkness as the theme song, which was never intended. It was actually, it wasn't like, hey, we need a theme song, which is usually how it works. It was like, oh, we need, I wrote the song for the, you know, for a scene, and it ended up, I think Larry Sugar, you know, really liked it, and it ended up that way. So that was very memorable because, yeah, it's just, it's kind of every artist's dream to have a theme song. So it was really nice to have it happen by mistake.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks.
Next question is from Joe on Twitter, and I think that you covered a bit about it because he wants to know about your version of origami and what was different about it. But I think you covered some of that. It was different in tone, and it was definitely different. But he also asked, did you have anything to do with alternate versions of the songs, like Rebecca, the acoustic version, or More Like a River, the acoustic version, or if those were all done by someone else, if you can remember?
First of all, hello, Joe. And for origami, just to expand on what I said, which was basically like, I kind of missed the mark a little bit in terms of I was trying to take it into kind of my version of a sexy, moody thing, which I think just ended up sounding a little too moody for the scene. And yeah, I think I just missed the direction. So my version was just a lot more minory chords and kind of an introspective kind of melancholy feel, which I realize now it just missed the mark. So, but having said that, I'm actually really proud of the song my version of it. So I'm glad that it happened. It was a good experience. And for the other versions of the song, I think I did actually have I can't remember it, guys, but I'm pretty sure I had a piano version for sure of Rebecca. And I think at that time we also did an acoustic, but I could be wrong. And for the blues songs, I recorded the gentleman that played the old blues singer in LA, in my studio in LA, and then so I was involved in that, and then we just kind of sent the instrumental for Mackenzie to do her vocal on that. Regarding the other versions, I can't really remember, to be honest with you. But I know for Rebecca there was kind of a few, but I know for a fact, and I don't know, I mean, you guys probably can tell me, I definitely did a piano version, but did that end up on the show? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's I think the main version of Rebecca, yeah.
Cool. And then there was a guitar version. I think at that time we might have submitted both, but I can't quite remember. Yeah. That's that's the second song I wrote for the show, and yeah, I'm fond of that song, I have to say.
Wow. So you actually worked with the artist who did the version of Old Chicago Blues. You actually recorded that with him. Old Chicago, you're a young man's town.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the song, but yeah, I was like, you know, John, when he was telling me about their vision, he was like, we need to get this really, you know, old school, really old school authentic blues. I was like, man, I'm just off the boat from Dublin. Where am I going to find that in a day? So, but funny enough, at that time I lived in Santa Monica, and on the Santa Monica boardwalk, there was this amazing blues singer called Roger. I can't remember his last name. Sorry, Roger. But so I was just like, hi, I write for the show, this show on Disney. Would you be interested in doing a voiceover? And he said, of course, and he nailed it. He just came in and nailed it. But that was kind of fun because that's certainly not the music that I write for my own projects. And so that was a little bit, not really of a good challenge, you know, and I'm proud of how it came out. But initially I was just like, ooh, this scares me a little bit. I have to write this kind of
It kind of goes into the next question that is from Ann Kelsberg on Instagram, because they asked, what song did you have the hardest time composing?
The aforementioned Origami, because we didn't make it to the show. And then I think, I think not because it was hard to write blues, but I think initially before when I heard the concept, I had a bit of trepidation. But once Jon gave me the lyrics and stuff like that, it actually flowed out of me quite easily. I think the other hard ones, I think Love Is Broken is one of the songs that I'm very, very proud of, but it was such an epic song, and I'm not usually an epic writer, you know, and it was long, and so that I really wanted to get right, you know, because of the subject matter, etc. And but that, I think, actually, to be honest with you, most of the songs I wrote quite fast, you know, and I find that I think Jon did such a great job with the lyrics that the music wrote itself a little bit. I just channeled it, you know. He really did set the scene, so I kind of knew right off the bat, oh, this is a minory song, or this is kind of a very majory, so. But in terms of just, you know, in terms of what my background was, it was like the Chicago one was the toughest, because I don't know blues.
Yeah. So this next one is kind of not really a question, but you kind of spoke about it, from Alona on Facebook. She reads, I don't think there's any TV show I've seen with music as powerful. Rebecca and The Rock stood out especially, but there are several more like River, Origami in the Darkness, that are just incredible and really elevated the show. The way the music weaves into the story was also very well executed, including little asides in episodes leading up to the full songs about their meanings. How exciting. Would love to hear about your process and how much you worked with the creator to develop the storyline through the music.
Well, first of all, thank you for that, beautiful comment. That really does. I mean, honestly, guys, I think hearing how this show has really stayed so loved, and hearing how because people write to me all the time about how important these songs were to them, especially when they were growing up. It really does touch me. And just to get back to, I think, Anne's question, first of all, More Like a River, I actually didn't write. That was a song that was already written for the show before I became involved. And the others, or Origami, I didn't. But in terms of the creative process for everything else, Jon would send me the lyrics. He would give me a bit of the background, you know, especially for like The Rock. He would explain, okay, Molly comes from these Irish parents. It's a bit of a turbulent relationship. So he'd give me the backstory to paint the scene, in addition to the lyrics. And then he just really gave me a lot of creative control, and I would write it, and then I would either send my little video, or else at that time I bought a tiny little like 4-track recorder where I would just give the very bare bones kind of idea to see if I was on the right track, and play it to Jon. And he it was really, most of the time it was really, really effortless. It was either super effortless or that one time with origami where it was just like, you know. So, but most of the time we really, I think it was just a really great chemistry, and in terms of the creative process, it was just very, very easy.
The next questions come from Sarah on Instagram. What was your favorite song and why? And were there any songs that didn't make it to the series that we should know about?
Ooh, a favorite song and why? I have a few for so many different reasons, but if I had to choose one, I would probably say The Rock. Just because the character, you know, is from an Irish background. I'm Irish. I got to record it in Ireland, actually, with my producer friend Dave McCune, and we got like some great traditional Irish musicians to play on it. So it was very authentic. So and I really like that song. I love the lyrics that John wrote, and I like the lie 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 towards the end, and it was a kick when I heard Mackenzie singing that for the first time. So I think if I had to pick The Rock, but I'm also I really love, for different reasons, like I love Questions because of that. It was just I love how Jewel sang it. It was very simple song. It was a lot of them were very grandiose with it, and this was, I just felt just kind of short and sweet. I really like that song, and I think Love Is Broken. I'd never written such kind of like an anthem kind of, and that when I listen back, it's yeah, I'm proud of that. But I loved Another World. Thought the guy who sang it, who I actually didn't meet because they recorded in Canada. Wow, I mean, what a voice. He was brilliant. So I love that. I love In the Darkness because it really it was my ticket to the show. Rebecca, I'm very, very fond of as well. You know, it's just, I really kind of, I've got a special place in my heart for all of them, but I think top two would probably be The Rock and Love Is Broken.
Next one is, how much did you know about the characters and plot before writing the songs? And did you meet you actually already answered this one, I think, but did you meet any of the actors of So Weird?
Cool. So in terms of the background, before I wrote the songs, I mean, before I wrote In the Darkness, Lee, the producer of the show, brought me into Disney and showed me like the rough cut to set the scene of what, because this was brand new to everyone at that time. It was the first episode. And then I just had the lyrics, and I really would just collaborate with Jon, who would give me, like I explained with The Rock, a little bit of the backstory. Okay, she's a turbulent relationship with her parents. You know, this is, you know, where she's coming from. She lost her husband, that kind of, you know, backstory. So it would set the scene, but that was really it. Yeah, and that was kind of in some ways enough, just hearing it from Jon's mouth. And I did meet the cast at the premiere, and as I mentioned, and they were super lovely. Really, really excited about the show as well. But I did have most of my, even though I've only met, I think, Mackenzie a few times, I did have most of the kind of, you know, back and forth with her because she was the singer of the songs.
So our next question here is from Leana on Twitter, and she says that there's a great Molly-centric fan video on YouTube that's set to your song Wasted, and she says that she'd love to know where she could buy that song.
Ooh. I think it's on, if it's not on Spotify, it should be, and maybe that's my homework for this weekend, because it is from one of my Annmarie Montade solo albums, not Annmarie Cullen, Annmarie Montade, called, I think it was called More Blame. I had two versions. I had Blame, and then I had More Blame, which was an extension of that record. So Wasted was on that. And thank you. Thanks for asking about that song. it should be on the interweb. I'm very embarrassed, guys. I should know it's my music and I should know, but this was quite a while ago that I recorded that song. So I am going to find out. If it's not on the internet, it should be. And so leave it with me.
Okay. This next, it's not really a question, but it's from Andrea on Twitter, and she says, "The Rock is probably the most beautiful and amazing song of the series, and there's just so many layers to it." She had wanted to know what your inspiration was, but I think that's, getting the lyrics from Jon and all that.
Yeah, it's that's such a nice comment. Thank you. I think just in addition to the lyrics, I think I just wanted it to be so authentic, like Irish, which is a lot of kind of the kind of dark, moody, minory chords at the in the verses, etc., and then the very melodic, even I which is kind of the Irish are known to like their idly and diddly diddly eyes, and just I just really wanted it to be just like from the first note in terms of the production and everything that you would know you're in Ireland. We're setting the scene here.
Yeah.
It's not about anywhere. It couldn't be about anywhere else in the world except like Ireland. So. So shout out to my friend Dave McCune who co-produced that with me, and we I'm really it's her favorite song. It's also my favorite song from the show. So.
And there's a few lyrics in that song that's is it Gaelic?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that actually the other day because Jon, when he wrote it, he was like, I would like I want to say my oh, Ireland, my Ireland, the rock is in me. And he wanted the Gaelic translation. And I was really, really bad at Irish when I was in school. We had to learn it. And I'm glad I did because it's very traditional, but I'm not fluent. So I had to call around to my friends and be like, how do you, translate this line? So I think actually the guy who played the tin whistle on the recording, I think he told us how to translate it. So that and we had to spell it out, I think, phonetically for Mac to sing it, So
This one comes from Katie on Twitter. She asks, "Do you think there'll ever be a chance of us seeing So Weird soundtrack? I've been dying for one forever."
Oh man, if it was up to me, yes, and it would have happened a long time ago. And but I'm hoping that now that it is on Disney Plus, it seems like the show is getting like people are like, oh yeah, I remember that show. So hopefully that will create the demand. Unfortunately, I'm not in charge of that, but I hope so. And I think now with that, there's been kind of it's been 20 years. It's on Disney Plus. I think we are hopefully going to see it.
I know, right? Like crossing our fingers.
Otherwise, I'm sure there's a few bootlegs going out around there. Not that I would have anything to do with that, but
It would be awesome. You definitely deserve to get paid residuals for that music, because I think if they released a soundtrack, we'd all be buying it, and you definitely deserve to be paid for your hard work on such an amazing show that's lived for so long.
Even without the money, just to have you guys and me have it out there. So anyway,
to have a legitimate soundtrack. I mean, how could a show that's centered so much around music, I mean, basically 3 seasons worth of soundtrack music, and it never got an official release. So hopefully they do, pay artists what they're due. I definitely think that music should have been sold, and fans should have the option to buy it and support those artists that work so hard on it. But this next question here is from Monique Rowe on Instagram. The question reads, what musicians and music of a decade or era inspired the music of So Weird or Molly Phillips? if you
Ooh.
can.
You know, being honest, I think I wrote that music as if I was writing it for myself, and I had my own solo band at the time, and at that time, I think I was quite influenced by, Melissa Etheridge and those kind of just strong women solo artists. But I really kind of just was like living vicariously through Molly, and I was like, okay, if I was writing this song for my band, how would I write it? And that's essentially what I did, except for the likes of in Other Worlds, where it kind of had to have a little bit of a different vibe. But but I really kind of did it as if it was mine. It was really, yeah. So the decade was the late 90s. Me, Annmarie Montade.
The next question is from Z on Instagram. They ask, what are your feelings about Molly's past referenced in the song In the Darkness?
That was kind of more, because I didn't write the lyrics for that. That might be more of a question for Jon Cooksey. But I think the lyrics in that song just kind of paint a picture of someone who's been through the mill, but has remained hopeful, and that's what I think. My music is quite dark, for my solo projects, but I think there's always kind of like a morsel of hope in that, and the same with my other project, Saucy Monkey. It's kind of dressed up as kind of dark music, but there is a little slither of hope, and I think I like that about In the Darkness lyrics and Molly, because it's like she's been through the ringer, but she still remains positive, which I really think is the key to life.
This next question comes from That's So Weird Dude on Twitter. That's his username. He has two questions. The first one is, did you ever perform live on stage or at a nightclub? Because your sound music is amazing.
You guys are so nice. Yeah, I've performed many times on stage, and when actually around the time of getting hired for So Weird, I had my own solo project, and I played in a little Irish bar in Santa Monica. So yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, it kind of was like a mini Molly Phillips, I guess, without the kids.
Nice. And then the second question is, did you ever perform with Mackenzie Phillips?
No, actually, I didn't. The closest I got was really just sending my little recordings of on VHS back and forth to her, and collaborating on the phone if she had questions or anything. But I never, which is a pity actually, never got to play on stage with her. But never say never. Maybe we should make that happen, guys.
Right? That would be amazing.
Yeah. Like have a 20-year anniversary party or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. Good questions.
Yeah.
So indeed.
It'd be awesome. Like if we could have a Mackenzie Phillips feature on an Annmarie Cullen record, that would be amazing.
Right. Have you guys tried to get Mackenzie on this podcast?
She's like still quite up there in fame, so it's hard to reach out.
But you got Alex Johnson, right?
Yeah. So I also want to say never. But yeah, I know she's like she's a counselor, and she's also acting in some shows like Orange is the New Black.
Oh, she's that?
She was in the latest season, so I know she's got a lot going on.
Yeah, we gotta figure out how to reach out to her people. We can't like go to her directly. We gotta go through her people. So we're still trying to figure that out. We have reached out, but haven't heard back yet. But we're trying. So we're almost done here, Annmarie. But our next question comes from Dead Eye Daisy on Twitter, and they say, were there, if you know, were there any drafts for music for the original season 3 of So Weird that you might have known about, or any kind of like rough outlines, like there should be a song about this subject or something like that you knew
You
about
know
for
what?
season 3?
I just wrote for the first 2 seasons because I then got signed to my songwriting deal with Warner Chappell, so I kind of left the series to go and pursue my solo music. So I don't know. I'm very sorry. I'm not a good person to ask about that, but yeah. But unfortunately, I left after season 2.
Yeah, and that's when like the main writers like Jon Cooksey left as well because they changed up the show.
Right. Which is, you know, it happens a lot in television. I just feel
Yeah.
grateful that we had the same crew for, you know, the 2 seasons, and it was,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, we wished everyone the best for season 3, but we kind of all, well, I just went a different direction personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you
So
guys for, you know, keeping the show alive, and just, yeah, and asking all of these questions. And yeah, it's really, really nice what you did, and I really enjoyed this. And yeah, just want to thank you and the fans.
Yeah. I have
and
one
I do
last
have a second.
question.
All right.
Um, Something we like to ask everyone that comes on our podcast is if the show So Weird were to come back as some type of reboot or some type of revival, would you want to come back to write music for it once again?
Dude, you wouldn't even, I would be like saying yes, yes, yes before you had the question out of your mouth. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was just like, it was such a special time. You know, I was very, you know, still quite young, but I was very young at the time to get like my first professional job. And it's just, I think of it with so much love and warmth, and everyone involved, like Jon Cooksey, who is just like a great songwriting collaborator, and to the producer Lee, who, you know, gave a waitress a shot at writing professional music for a Disney show. It's just kind of was just like such a bizarre and lovely and effortless kind of experience. And yeah, I would absolutely, they wouldn't have to ask me twice. I'd be all in.
Oh, that's so heartwarming to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming along with us.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. It was nice seeing you guys, seeing your lovely faces, seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.